I'm Jessica Lombard, Associate Superintendent.
And I'm Superintendent John Berkey, and this is Huntley 158 Today. Well, today we are going to be talking about standardized testing, or more specifically, the change from the ACT to the SAT. Illinois has changed over to where all the students have to do the SAT, and so that's going to be a big change for us.
Dr. Berkey, I took the ACT, not the SAT. How about you? Did you participate in both, or only?
No, actually, I did the ACT, and that was enough. So I had no desire to do any more than that. So our guest today, who's going to talk to us about this, is Mrs. Shelly Kish, who is one of the associate principals at the high school. If we could start off, Mrs. Kish, by telling us about your job and what scope do you have as associate principal?
Sure, I'm happy to be here. I work with curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and so I am involved in all of our curriculum reviews, through our curriculum mapping process, really what it is that we're teaching in our classes. And I also work with instruction for the teachers and oversee our instructional coaches, which have been just a fabulous addition to our staff this year. And I also oversee assessment, so part of our transition from ACT to SAT. I also work with the blended program here, and also our medical academy and engineering academies.
So a better question would be, what don't you do, I guess?
It's pretty much involved in a lot, so.
Mrs. Kish, you brought up that transition from the ACT to the SAT, and being the first year that the students will be doing that. Tell us a little bit about that transition and what's going on here at Huntley High School.
Well, that's been a big discussion this year because we didn't get the decision really from the state until a little late last year, and so it was a quick scramble to figure out what we were going to do, and really looking at it from a big overview of how are we going to get our students ready for the SAT. And so part of that was to look at a comprehensive assessment plan, and so we have decided to do the PSAT for freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, and so we have done that this fall. And that'll just really be great because SAT's information that they give back in their scoring reports is very detailed, and that'll give us a lot of feedback on our curriculum and how we are doing and preparing our students, and help us work with them and focus with them as they come to the SAT in April.
I think the big question is, how different is the SAT from the ACT? I mean, for years we had prepared students for the ACT. Is this going to be a huge shift or more of a minor change?
I think it is going to be, it's definitely a change because there are definitely parts of it. For example, in the math portion, they now have a calculator and a no calculator portion, where ACT was heavily calculator based, so that is going to be a change. Also, just the way they do some of their answers and their gridding is different, so some of those details of the test. And also there is no exact science portion. Science is kind of woven into the reading sections. And so there are definitely some differences, but ACT did do a transition last spring and did make it more similar to what ACT is like. And they're both, if we look at standards, based on the Common Core standards, which is what our curriculum is based off of. But as far as some of just the details of the test, there's definitely some difference between the two tests.
What reaction are you getting from parents and students?
A little bit of a fear, and just, what are we going to do to help prepare them? And so some of that we've done, we actually had a half a day for teachers to prepare our teachers and let them sit down and take the test. And then we had somebody from SAT come in and just talk to us about test prep strategies and some of those differences between the tests. I've worked with department chairs, so we created a presentation that went out to all students in all of the departments that really just focused on what that test would look like and what those details are like. And so they just have an idea heading in, so it's not a shock the first time that they see it. Also, there is a website for the parents just as a resource so that they can see some of the differences and know that, because the ACT or the SAT that a lot of us took years ago was drastically different than what it is today. And so just trying to get that information out there to them.
But there are a lot of free resources, right?
Yes.
Much more so than maybe with the ACT, right?
Absolutely.
That students can utilize.
Yeah, we will be handing back the actual test that the PSAT students took. And so that right there is a huge bonus, because everything from ACT was pretty much on lockdown and you didn't get to keep those things. We are going to hand the test booklets back, train the kids on how to go in to set up their College Board accounts and make sure that they know how to access those score reports, and then we'll be communicating that with the parents as well. But in addition, on SAT's website, they have multiple practice tests And you can take your scores from the PSAT, link them straight into Khan Academy, and they develop a personalized plan for each of the students. And so we're going to be working on that in the spring.
So if parents are looking for where do I go in the high school to get just guidance and help in preparing, where's their first stop?
Their first step is going to be this website. So as soon as those score reports come out, we're going to have all of that information on there. And I'll be communicating with parents as soon as we have that prepared.
And I would assume also their counselor would be a
Yes,
good
and their
place to go.
counselor.
Because I think, this is just really kind of the unknown, and a lot of people just don't know what is this going to be
Right.
like or how different.
Right.
So.
It looks like you and the staff here at Huntley High School have really thought about things to help make this transition as smooth as possible for the students and the families.
Yeah.
So we thank you so much for all of the efforts and work that you've been doing.
Thank you. And also, one more thing I do want to throw out there is that we are still offering the ACT because we know that this is a transition time. So we have kept the ACT and do plan on keeping those national test dates, so on Saturdays. As long as these students are still wanting to maybe take both and compare, we are going to be offering on the national test days the ACT, and we are also just approved for the SAT. So they can retake the SAT as well as take the ACT if they're interested.
Well, thank you. And thank you very much, Ms. Kish, for being with us today.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us at Huntley 158 today. If you have questions you'd like answered or future topics you'd like discussed on our show, please reach out to us at our District 158 Facebook page or Twitter, #Ask158. Until next time.